Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the webinar from University of California, Riverside Extension. My name is Guilherme Almeida. I'm the Senior Director of the Global Engagement Office at UCR Extension. With me today is Lovraj Grewal, who is our manager at our India office. Thank you for joining us this evening. The seminar we're going to talk about today is going to be about postgraduate programs in the United States, and we're going to talk about application process, deadlines, and prerequisites. Okay, the agenda for the day. First, we're going to cover a little bit the U.S. educational system. Next, we're going to talk about how to select, how to find out about universities and the selection process. Then we're going to talk about the application process, dates and deadlines. We're going to cover also the postgraduate certificate and diploma programs. And finally, we'll talk about some application tips and advice for you. In the end, we're going to have a session for questions. So please hold your questions. You can always send your questions on the chat. You can type your questions. And at the end, we'll cover all the questions. Okay, let's start off with a quick overview of the U.S. educational system. As you can see on your screen, like basically the students here, they start on the primary schools, or we call elementary schools, from the first to the 6th year. There are 6 years of elementary schools. Once they finish, they move on to secondary schools, and the first 2 or 3 years are usually the junior high, sometimes also called at middle school. After they finish these, some schools are 3 years, some schools are 2 years, basically. And then the last 4 years, it's called the senior. They go to high school, and where they get it's called the senior, senior high schools. Once they finish the secondary schools, basically, the next step would be to apply for a bachelor's degree or associate degrees. I will cover a little bit in the next slide, one of the next slides, more details about that. But usually, the bachelor's degrees in the U.S. are 4 years long. And once they finish the bachelor's degree, then they are eligible to apply to the graduate programs. And the graduate programs, we have several levels. We have postgraduate diplomas, certificate and diplomas. We have master's degrees, we have doctoral degrees, and we have also professional degrees. So we're going to cover all these things throughout the webinar. Professional schools. You probably heard a lot about masters and PhDs, but some careers in the United States, you don't go to a master's degree, and you don't actually, you don't have a bachelor's degree for those careers. Those professional schools, differently from many countries, basically they are at the graduate level, and in order to exercise, the profession in these areas, so they must attend the professional schools which are at the graduate level. So you must have a bachelor's degree before you apply to those professional schools. And that includes the most common ones are law, medicine, dentistry, optometry, pharmacy, veterinary. So these are just some of the top professional schools in the United States. So basically, if you want to be an attorney, first you have to have a bachelor's degree, and then you can apply to one of those professional schools. Okay, let's talk about public and private universities. You hear a lot about public and private. What are the difference between the two of them? Okay, normally public schools here, we don't have public schools at the federal level. Usually the public schools are at the state level. So we usually call state college or university. Those schools, they are supported and run by the state or local government. Means that the state administrates the schools. So many of those public universities, schools, they have the name of the state. An example here, you can see Ohio State or University of California or University of Washington or University of Pennsylvania. Those are all public schools. On the private side, those are privately run. They usually they are smaller in size than the state schools, although not always so. Some may be religiously affiliated, but most welcome students from all religions. And some of the famous, private schools, especially here in California, are Stanford or the University of Southern California. Okay. So I'll move on to the next slide. So you can understand, basically the higher educational system in the United States. Here's an example of the state of California. Since we're based here in California, I can give you an idea. But this system pretty much, is replicated in other states too. So basically, there are three levels of three major systems in the public system of higher education. Here in California, for example, we have on the very top is the University of California. So University of California, it is a state system, okay? Now, University of California, we offer, you can see on your screen, we offer bachelor's degrees, master's, and PhD. What you see, those BA, BS, MA, MS, they stand for Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Sciences, Master of Arts, Master of Sciences, and PhD is your doctor, is a doctor program. Okay. Now, the University of California is one of the most prestigious in the world, and the reason for that is because it is a research university system, and it generates new technologies. Altogether, just to give an idea, altogether, all the UC schools, they already have among the faculty 63 Nobel laureates. Just to give an idea, what does that mean? Like if the UC were a country, it would be the fourth country in the world with most Nobel prizes tied up with France. Now, the UC system consists of 10 campuses. The oldest ones you probably heard about Berkeley and UCLA, which UCLA stands for University of California, Los Angeles. And Berkeley is actually University of California, Berkeley. So Riverside, where I work, is one of the campuses in the Southern California area. Only the top 12.5% students can apply to UC. That means you must be in the very top, you must be a very good student to be able to apply to UC, University of California campus. If you don't qualify for UC, and that doesn't mean that you're going to be accepted, actually. That means that you're going to qualify, but to be accepted, UC is very competitive, so you must be really, really good in order to be accepted. And we're going to talk about some requirements later. If this is the system, if you don't qualify for University of California, then there's another chance. You can go to the California State University system. Usually, the California State Universities, they don't offer PhDs. Lately, some of the campuses start offering a few PhDs together with some of the UC campuses. But basically, they normally offer bachelors of arts, bachelor of sciences, and master of arts and master of sciences. In the California State University, it's they have 23 campuses, and they accept only the top 33%. So if you see the UC is 12.5%, but the margin here for the California State is 33%. So you can be if you are among the top 33%, you can apply to California State University. We normally call here the CSU, which stands for California State University. So just to clarify, UCLA and CSU LA are two different universities. In other words, University of California, Los Angeles, and California State University, Los Angeles, they belong to two different systems. Okay. Now, if you don't qualify to a California State University, let's say that you didn't make it to the top 33%, then you have like a one last chance, which are the community colleges. The community college, they offer what is called the associate degree, Associate of Arts, Associate of Sciences, And this is a 2-year degree. In California, we have 111 campuses. Those associate degrees, they basically can serve also as a pathway for you to go to UC or California State, in the sense that once you complete the community college and associate degree with 60 semester units and with a GPA 3.0, you can actually transfer to UC or a California State University. As a matter of fact, 85% of the transfers to University of California comes from community colleges in the United States. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. We're gonna talk about a little bit about credits. You know, like many times you hear about credits, and well, what it is basically is a number that they assign that reflects the number of hours that you have to study in a course in one of those degrees. So basically, a full-time program at most schools at the undergraduate level is usually 12 to 15, and at the graduate level is 8 credits. Okay. Let's move on because we have a lot to cover still. Okay, now that you know about the educational system in the U.S., let's talk about, let's say you decided to come to the U.S., what do you do? The first step is to begin researching about universities, okay? And some of the criteria that you should look at to consider what school is the best for you. Here are some of the criteria, okay? Number 1, major or specialization. What is the university famous for? What are the top majors? You know, what are the qualifications? What are the rankings in terms of nationally for, let's say, for engineering or for business? So basically, you look, you know, depending on what you major you're interested in. So you must find a school that has a good program in the area. Second issue is location. You know, everyone is different. Some people are just better with the warm weather. Some people are just better with cold weather. Some people like big cities. Some people like small cities. Some people like big campuses, small campuses. So basically, some people wants to be close to where, you know, there's a big industry. Like an example here in California, Silicon Valley, you know, is some of the home for some of the biggest companies in the world. So basically, some people wants to be close to them. Anyway, so these are just some examples, you know, things that you should look at the location. Faculty, you know, look at the faculty, see what are the professors, you know, are the professors renowned professors, they are leaders, they do research in which field, you know, like some. So look at the faculty, the qualification of the faculty of the school. Obviously, you know, the admission requirements, you know, you can see if you qualify for that school. And the admission requirements vary from school to school. There's not a standard requirement for all schools. It's different from some countries. You have like an entry exam. It's not in the US, no. Basically, you have a set of requirements. We're going to discuss that in a little bit. And based on those requirements, you qualify or not for the school. Length of study, you know, like I have to see how long is your degree. Obviously, costs, you know, like the costs vary widely in the United States, you know, from I would say anywhere from $20,000 a year on a community college to anywhere to probably close to $100,000 in some schools per year. So cost is a very important factor. Ranking, I'm kind of a little bit careful with that because there's so many rankings out there. You have to make sure, you know, like when you look at the rankings, you know, like you have to associate the rankings of the school with the rankings of the major, you know, of the program that you're interested in. But some schools, you know, they have very good rankings in specific areas. So look at the rankings, but make sure that, you know, like is a reputable ranking, and look at also the rankings not only for the school overall, but also in the major that you're interested in. Career options, you know, like what are the prospects of a graduate in terms of finding jobs, And so even housing availability in the area, because that's a big part of the cost too. And some areas is more difficult to find and very expensive to find housing. As an international student, you definitely, unless you have a family living in the States, you're definitely going to need some housing. Okay, so you already, let's say that where are you going to find this information? Okay, you want to look for school. There are a lot of college search engines. I just listed a few of them, Peterson's, grad schools, NASPA, Princeton Review. Those are some famous websites where you can find information about schools. You should also talk to friends. In their case here, in our school, you can find, if you are attending any pathway programs, if you're attending any, or even language, well, not any language case for India, but if you're attending any other program, you can talk with the staff. There are a lot of counselors here, especially in the university, and most universities they have college counselors, teachers, and even family members, who might be familiar with the schools in the U.S. And obviously, like you should look at the university websites that you're interested in, and look at the admission departments too, in terms of requirements and additional information that they provide. Okay. Okay. Moving on. Let's say that they decided to apply for the school. What is required to apply to a school? There are several components. They are usually common to many universities, but like I said before, there's not really, like one set of requirements that applies to every single school. Each school has its own requirements, and all of those items that are shown here on the screen, they vary in terms of scores, and they vary in terms of additional things, but those are the most common items that most schools require. The first one is the admission exam, okay, that you might be required, most of the time you are required to attend a graduate school. And those entry exams varies according to the major that you applying to. So I just listed the most famous ones, which are the GRE and GMAT. GMAT is usually for business schools. GRE usually primarily for engineering, but a lot of schools also use the GRE. The LSAT, the law school admission test. The MCAT is for medical schools, and then for dentistry you have the DAT, the PCAT for pharmacy, and the optometry, like admission tests. But mostly, you don't hear much about those the last three ones or the last four ones. The most famous ones are usually the GRE and GMAT. Again, GRE, if you're interested in engineering, for instance, you have to take the GRE, and if you're interested in business schools, normally required to take the GMAT. And if you're interested in go to law school, like you can, you will be required to take the LSAT or LSAT. Okay, obviously, for some foreigners, they usually require the TOEFL exam or the IELTS, which is the language exam. Academics, your GPA, like they look at your GPA in your academics, what is your performance in your bachelor's degree? Letters of recommendation, usually those letters of recommendation usually should come from faculty or people in the industry if you worked, before. Your resume, and usually, your personal statement, okay, a statement of purposes. There's usually, like an essay that you have to write about yourself and why you want to apply for that. So those are usually common components that you'll be required to apply. But like I said before, every school is different, and even within a school, the requirements may vary. So just to give an example here, like normally, you have the graduate division requirements, and then you have the departmental requirements. Besides those general requirements, you might be required to provide some additional information, and that additional information requirements from each department. Okay, so when you look at when you apply to a school, make sure that you look at the requirements for your specific major, not only the general requirements, but also for specific majors. Here's an example. Now, UCR, Riverside, University of California, Riverside, for example, when you apply to a Master of Sciences in Computer Sciences, you would need both. You have to all the requirements from the graduate division, which is general requirements, plus the UCR Barnes College of Engineering. They have specific requirements only for computer science, Masters in Computer Sciences. Okay, here's an example of the requirements. For UCR, you will need like an online application, statement of purposes, your personal history, like your transcripts, statement, like we'll have a personal history statements, or your official transcripts, financial statement, 3 letters recommendation, your GRE score, and your English proficiency. Okay. Now, GRE scores, that's a common question on what is the score required, like usually, you have the verbal and the quantitative, scores, and usually for engineering, ideally, the average for the verbal is about 161, and the average for the quantitative is about 169. So basically, you would need close to 330, for a GRE to be accepted at the engineering school at UCR. Okay, here's so the requirements for the degrees. Okay, next, let's talk about dates and deadlines, and this is a very, very important, issue. Some universities, they don't admit, like students every. Well, let's go back a little bit. Some schools in the U.S. They work on a semester basis, and some schools work on a quarterly basis. A quarter is like 1/4, and 1/4 of the year is like 3 months. So basically, trimester or quarterly basis is the same thing. So like UCR, for instance, we work on a quarterly basis. But some schools work on a semester basis, and some usually the academic year here in the U.S. starts in September. It goes from September all the way to June. Normally, like September to December for the first semester, and then usually around January, February to May, June, the second semester. And on a quarterly basis, usually we have the 3 quarters, the fall, winter, and spring. Fall quarter is from September to December, winter is from January to March, and then the spring quarter is end of March, beginning of April, all the way to June, okay? So some universities, they may accept, they have more than one entries dates, but most of them usually are in September, okay? Some schools require applications well in advance. Some schools may accept applications up to the quarter before attending. So basically, and also when you look at deadlines, make sure you look for deadlines for international students, because of oftentimes, like you see that the deadlines for international students are different than from domestic students. Okay. Make sure you review the admission materials, thoroughly, and reach out to the admission department if clarification is needed. Make sure that you understand that all the requirements, they require all the details, and if don't hesitate to write and may ask questions, because deadlines are critical. That's probably going to talk about that later, but it's one of the biggest mistakes that people make is to not look at the deadlines and not be preparing time, and then they miss the deadline and they have to wait another year to apply for that school. Okay. I'll give you an example now about Riverside. Just to give an idea, Riverside here, we have about 23,000 enrollments. We have 101 undergraduate programs, 97 graduate degree programs between masters and PhDs. the campus, the UC campus, the Riverside is one of the UC campuses, and it was founded in 1954. Within Riverside, I have three big divisions. You have the undergraduate division, you have the graduate division, and you have the extension division. I'm the senior director of the Global Engagement Office at UCR Extension, the extension division. And we have a very large international education programs here. And the three areas there we cover basically pathway to undergraduate and graduate programs. And I'm going to talk about that because that might be of interest. We have also English language, and we have a professional certificate and diploma programs, which also are some of the postgraduate diplomas could be interest of you too. Okay, let's talk about postgraduate certificate and diplomas. As I mentioned before, usually on the graduate level, you have postgraduate certificate and diplomas, you have master's degrees, you have master levels, and you have also the doctoral degrees, and you have the professional schools. Basically, masters and PhDs, like masters is usually 2 years long, and PhD is 4 years long. Professional schools usually varies, can be usually to 2 to 3 years. Sometimes can be even 5. Now, what are the benefits for a postgraduate diploma? Postgraduate diploma, they're usually shorter. They usually can be anywhere from 6 to 9 months, normally 9 months, a diploma. They are a certification, and especially coming from University of California, because it's one of the most prestigious systems in the world. So if you have a certification from a UC campuses in general, this is here in the US, it really you stand out among all the compared to other people, because that's a very reputable institution. So back to the postgraduate, they usually help you to get good jobs if you have a certification, postgraduate diploma. They are shorter than the masters and PhDs, and they much lower in cost. Like a postgraduate diploma, for instance, is less than $20,000, whereas a master's degree at the UC, at UCR, costs around $60,000 to $70,000 a year. So it's 2 years, so it's about $120,000 to $140,000 compared to less than $20,000 for a postgraduate certificate and diploma. Also, the requirements to be accepted, we have fewer requirements, and because they are 9 months long, you still have an opportunity to do OPT after you finish your postgraduate diplomas. Okay. Now here, you see on the side, we have the postgraduate certificate in management. Usually it's a 3-month. This is a 3-month program with 23 units. We have a postgraduate certificate in applied management, which consists of the postgraduate certificate plus 3 months of internship, and then you have the postgraduate diplomas, which is a 9-month program. And the postgraduate diploma is the only one that offers OPT, because according to the law, you must have at least 9 months of consecutive 9 months of training at the higher education level. Okay. The 3-month postgraduate certificate in management, basically small, almost like a small MBA. You cover basically the top areas in management, like human resources or marketing, global marketing, multinational financial management, building technology-centric organizations, and strategic management. The requirements, usually the TOEFL, IELTS, you have to have a bachelor's degree since it's a postgraduate program. You do not need a GMAT, just like an MBA. You normally need a GMAT. You do not need for postgraduate certificate or diploma. Okay, and you must have a student visa to apply for this program. The 6 months, as I mentioned before, is the postgraduate certificate plus a 3 months internship in an American company. And then the postgraduate diplomas is a 9-month program divided in 3 quarters. The first quarter usually is the certificate. So you will get, you study 3 months as a mini MBA. The second is a generic, you have different areas, right? You cover different areas. The second quarter, you do your specialization. And there are several areas we're going to discuss in the next slide. And then the third quarter, it's an unpaid internship, so you can apply, your knowledge that you acquire into the workplace and get some professional experience. Okay, after you finish those 9 months, then you can apply to OPT. So here's some of the areas that we offer in a postgraduate diploma. You have a postgraduate diploma in big data technologies, bioengineering, business management, digital marketing, engineering, entertainment and media, entrepreneurship, events management, leadership, organizational excellence, project management, public policy, international relations, sports management, and tourism and hospitality management. Okay, so if you see below at the bottom, you see the progression. You start with a certificate, then you do your concentration, and then you have a supervised internship, and then after you finish, you can apply for OPT or to a master's degree. Now, it's important, I'm going to talk about these master's degrees in a little bit, but the only exception for these postgraduate, among those postgraduate diploma specializations, are the entertainment and media management, which we do this in partnership with the LA Film School. So if you're interested in entertainment and media, field, basically this is a 1 year instead of 9 months. It's a 1 year program, and basically students start in Riverside, then they move to Hollywood. They do 6 months at the LA Film School, and then they do 3 months of an internship. Okay, moving on. Here's some of the requirements, as I mentioned before: no GMAT, no GRE, the TOEFL, and also another advantage, because usually, master's degree can apply once a year, and for the postgraduate certificate and diploma, you can start every quarter of the year. So you can start in January, you can start in April, you can start in June, and you can start in September. Those are the 4 times of the year where you can apply. And another advantage of the postgraduate certificate diploma is that they serve as a master's, as a pathway for a master's degree. We have agreements with 5 universities that they accept our postgraduate diploma into the master's degree. So after you finish a postgraduate diploma, with 6 more months, you can get a master's, and you can get a master's in marketing management, international business, tourism, big data, hospitality, or sports management. Those are the 5 universities that here you see the screen, the 5 universities which we have a partnership with. So basically you do 9 months of the postgraduate, and then you can actually, after you finish the 9 months, you can work for 1 year in OPT, for instance, and then finish your master's. With 6 more months, you can finish your master's. Now the OPT is paid for. So basically, when you work, you're earning a salary, just like any American. And so many people, once they do the OPT, they recover part of the investment that they made on the postgraduate diploma. Some people save money, and they can even apply to a master's later. Okay. Okay. Talking about pathways. Okay. The other thing that we have here at UCR are the graduate preparation programs. If you want to prepare to apply to a graduate program, we have a special program. This is a 9-month program to prepare you to apply to a master's degree. And we have several areas here, specializations like engineering, business, Masters of Business Preparation Program, chemistry, physics, math, statistics. So there are several areas in which you can specialize your graduate preparation program. The advantage that this is a 9-month program, and while you're doing this graduate program, you are allowed to take classes on campus for credits, and it can transfer up to 8 credits towards your master's degree here at UCR. So basically, you're preparing, but at the same time, you're already taking courses in the university. And upon successful completion, those credits that you earn with those classes, you can apply to a master's degree. Now, the Masters of Business, we call the MBPP, the Masters of Business Preparation Program, is very important, especially for India, because many students, they have what we call the BCom, which is a 3-year degree. And to do a master's degree in the US, you must have a 4-year bachelor's degree. So many times, students who have a BCom, they come to the US, they are forced to study, 2 more years of undergraduate courses to complete the units they require to be eligible actually to apply to a master's degree. Now, with the Master's of Business Preparation program here, UCR, that counts as your 4th year master's degree too. So basically, you don't have to study for 2 years. If you take this program, these 9-month programs, this would be equivalent to your 4th year. And right after you finish that, you can apply to the MBA program at UC Riverside. UC Riverside, they have basically a 2-year MBA, general MBA, and they have a 1-year MBAs in finance and 1-year MBA in accounting. Okay, so we usually, here are the dates, usually September to June. You must have an average of 3.2 for the final 2 years of your BCom, and a TOEFL scores and IELTS score. The GMAT will be required to be accepted into the master's degree at the UCR MBA program. But the program itself prepares you to take the GMAT exam. Okay, now an average, what usually people ask, what is the score required to be accepted? The score is usually about 610 for the general MBA, and for the finance and accounting, and then for the general MBA is around 590. So usually about 600 is a good score that you can have to qualify for an MBA. Okay. Finally, let's talk about some application tips and advice. Okay. Number 1, spend time on personal statements and or written application questions. Okay. Your personal statements, it's very, very important because that tells you who you are. So make sure, you write that you ask for native speakers to review it, but make sure you do not ask somebody else to write for you, because the admission people, they will know when it was written by the student or it was written by somebody else, and if they suspect it was somebody else, your chances of being admitted reduce quite a bit. So make sure that this reflects who you are, what are your goals, what are you interested in. Show about yourself. Make this as a story, make this a story of your life, pretty much, what are you interested in, how challenges have you faced to go, what do you want to achieve. These are the things that you should look into your personal statement. Okay. Letters recommendation. Ask the recommendation well in advance. Usually faculty, the best letters are from faculty, from your bachelor's degree. So make sure that you write it. Usually these people are busy, so give them a deadline, say that you need, and especially, try to get, give them at least 3 or 4 weeks to write the letter, and make sure you request the letter well in advance, so in case that they're late, you still have some time to submit the letters. Okay, plan and apply early, make sure you start planning. Don't wait for the last minute. There are a lot of requirements, a lot of things that you may not be able to get in time, and make sure that you look at the deadlines. Some of the biggest mistakes, like I said before, one of the most common mistakes for the students to make, it's usually missing the deadlines. Specific requirements may have even different deadlines. I have the general deadline, but you may have a deadline for specific items. So make sure that, because if you miss the deadline, that means that you cannot apply for that school that year. You have to wait another year to apply for that school. Here, a suggestion of what you can do when you're applying. Normally, people apply to 4, 5, 6, up to 10 schools. It's normal here in the United States. When you compare, it's basically you have to compare, side by side. What are the requirements? Like what are the rankings? So all these items, it's good to make like some sort of a spreadsheet, and there you have the general information, so keep control, and then you can compare all the items, that we discussed before. It's about 45 minutes. We have another 15 minutes left. Here, okay, before we go, the 4 common mistakes that people make. 1, expecting to find a school quickly. The process is long. Usually they may take up to a year. So basically start early, as sooner the better, the sooner the better. You start researching, for your school. To do a very good research, that would depend, best fit, it would depend on how well you research the schools. And like I said before, like each school is different, and each person is different too. So the best school for you may be not the best school for your friend, or for your brother, or for your cousin, or for somebody else. Each person has different needs, different personalities, different preferences, different performance in the bachelor's degrees, different scores, different GPAs. So make sure, that you find the best school for you. Don't try to follow somebody else just because somebody else did the research. It may work for you. The best school is the one that you feel comfortable and you perform well and you succeed in your studies. Okay. Rely upon rankings only. Like I said before, be careful when you look at rankings. Okay. There are some very good programs. A school may not be high in the rankings overall, but they may have some of the best programs in the country in specific areas. So make sure you don't rely only, on rankings. Some people mistake expecting someone to tell you which school you should attend. Like I said before, there are about close to 5,000, college universities in the U.S. They're all different. They all have different characteristics. So basically, don't expect someone to tell you, like which school you should attend. That means, you should go and find out yourself what school, what works best for you. Again, like another common mistake, not planning ahead, like make sure you take as much time as possible to plan for your graduate studies, and start planning, ideally, with years in advance.